please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
This is Bazaar Morning Call, live from the CNBC TV-18 headquarters in Mumbai.
Good morning. Welcome to Morning Call. I'm Latha Venkatesh, with me Anuj and Surabhi. Well, we had a soaring market in the United States, but not quite replicated in Asia, at least as of now. In US, of course, there were two very good reasons for those markets, especially financials in that market, to rise. It's not just the passing of the tax reform bill in the Senate. Remember, the House has already passed it. Now, it's just that there are two different versions, and the two bills now will have to be made into one, with both houses giving up something. But that was a very positive thing that the Senate passed the tax reform bill. But more importantly, at the testimony for the selection of, or vetting of the selection of the next Fed chairman, Powell actually said that regulations on small banks need to be eased. He said large banks are regulated enough. So tough enough was the word he used. That also made the banking stocks very happy. But the point is, it has not spread to Asia, and that's largely because of the strong dollar. Dollar was sub 93, I think, for the last 3 or 4 days, but now it's climbed to 93.3. The strength of the dollar has made metals weak. Across Asia, we are seeing nickel, steel, all of them come off in Shanghai. So we will have to really take mixed cues as far as the global markets are concerned. In India yesterday and day before, the Nifty got rebuffed at the 10,400 mark. But the party really is in the mid-caps, and it's scaling new heights, setting new highs every day. Some parts of that rally is worrying.
Good morning, Latha. Yes, absolutely. And people are finding new themes, new sectors, whether it's construction companies, tea companies, coffee companies, other forms of beverage and those sort of companies. But anyway, just to get back to cues this morning, let's pull up some of the Asian markets, because the picture is very muddled, as Latha pointed out. And none of that euphoria, that 200-point rally that we got on the dollar, none of that is translating into big moves in Asia. Good news for us that the SGX Nifty is more positive than negative. It's about 0.25% on the upside right now, the Nifty futures in Singapore. So that's where we stand. Oil is still range-bound, 63 to 64. That's not a cue that's really changed materially. So this is what we have going. The one negative cue, of course, is the fact that domestic institutions were net sellers yesterday. You can't fault them. I mean, how much can someone buy? But after about 11 sessions of buying, yesterday was a minor sell, just under 500 crore rupees. Anuj, morning. Now, where does this leave us? Again, we were talking about, whether Monday is going to be a breakout day. Yesterday was a bit of undoing of that move. Now what?
Morning, Surabhi. The market is not obliged, right, to give you, good headlines every day. And that's what the market is doing. I mean, just look at, and I think there's been a pattern in this market. And if you have followed the pattern, you have still made a lot of money. While, it may not look obvious. Just look at the last 3 days, the Nifty high and Nifty low. I mean, remarkable. The high for Nifty has been 10,404, 10,407, 10,409. You average it, it's 10,407 thereabout. Nifty's low has been 10,360, 340, 355. You average it, it's 10,350. It's been that much to the precision. You're buying at 10,350, you're making money. You're selling at 10,400, you're making money. So it's in a well-defined 50-point band, and you're in an expiry week, so you're getting a lot of money for your options. On dips, you buy call options. On rallies, you buy put options, and you make money. And that's the market's message, at least for the near term. So scalping trades, it depends on how much of a scalp you want and how much margin money you can cough up. I think the market is fine, Surabhi. It made a higher high and low yesterday. So in that sense, I think the bulls should still be relatively happy. The mid-cap part is going to continue. Make no mistake about that. The downside is protected. I don't know what mid-caps are seeing right now is a structural rally. The low interest rate environment. It doesn't really matter if the larger economy is doing well or not. The smaller stocks, smaller companies will find their areas and they will do well, and their earnings will look up. And that's why this mid-cap party, I think, has huge legs to go. The Nifty needs a domestic trigger to break out. I think, for me, as I've been saying now for last 1 month, it's with the Gujarat polls. Let's see what the outcome is over there. Bank Nifty slipped a bit after hitting all-time highs, but it still remains the stronger of the two indices because it's making lifetime highs almost on a daily or weekly basis, while that's not the case with Nifty yet. But it should happen with Nifty soon. Especially if the Gujarat election outcome is positive.
The Nifty traders for a while have shifted their allegiance to the Bitcoin. Maybe that's where all the buying is. 10,000 10 times in 1 year. What a move on that cryptocurrency. Even as regulators around the world really ponder and wonder what to do with it and how to sort of streamline the trade there.
You know, I've been hearing that Bitcoin is a bubble since it was $50. At $50, I first heard the word bubble, and since then, 10,000.
I picked up this data point, not quite sure about its veracity, but apparently the Bitcoin market cap now is some 95% of the S&P 500. It was just data that was floating around the internet, so take it with a pinch of salt.
No, it's not so much.
It yesterday crossed the market cap of Pepsi. I mean,
so it's $165 billion.
Yes.
I think it's now come up to $170 billion.
Exactly, phenomenal.
I mean, far from even $1 trillion.
Okay. Well, from Bitcoins, let's get back to equities. And this is a call that we're getting from one of the wise experts this morning. Ridham Desai of Morgan Stanley says, while growth is on a firm footing, liquidity will likely tighten and global equity returns are moderating. Thus, he adds, absolute returns may slow even as India probably outperforms emerging markets in 2018. Their December 2018 Sensex target is 35,700. An INR and USD upside of 6% and 7.4% compared to the MSCI EM index upside of 3%. Ridham adds that their target implies a forward price to earnings multiple of 15 times on their estimates of the end of 2018.
Okay, let's get to money market views. Pramit Brahmat of Veracity says the rupee will float in a range in the absence of any directional cue. Expects the spot USD INR pair to trade in a range of 64.20, 64.80. But considering the dollar strength, I think 64.80 is more likely than 64.20, simply because this is the morning trend. The dollar definitely has strengthened the last 24 hours. Bonds?
Okay. Well, Dhaval Dalal of Edelweiss says that the bond market sentiment appears to have stabilized, judging by the price action of the last 2 days, amidst lack of market-moving news. He says market participants await the GDP data to now get more cues on the state of the economy. Amidst relatively calm global markets, he expects the 10-year benchmark bond yield to remain below 7.1, which has been its recent peak.
Okay, then in the US market, it's back to all-time highs. So it's over to Mangalam for the world view.
All-time highs for the Wall Street, the Dow as well as S&P and Nasdaq. The Dow moved 225 points in yesterday's trading session. So record highs for all these three indices. Tax reforms one step closer as the US Senate committee has approved the Senate's tax plan, and which is why we saw that rally out there. Such was the strength of the rally. Bitcoin, you guys were speaking about it, has crossed $10,000 and the market cap is $200 billion. We're talking about one bagger, two baggers. The Bitcoin itself in this year has moved 10 times. So that is one thing we'll have to watch out for. Apart from that, across the Atlantic, there was a lot of green, even in the Eurozone. CAC, DAX and FTSE, all of them gaining. The FTSE was up 1%, led by the banks, because the Bank of England stress test showed no stress in the UK banking sector. The first time no capital needed since 2014. But for our markets, something that would be interesting is Siemens Gamesa, a Spanish renewable energy company, has got a historically large wind power order. That stock moved 10%, and we've seen some movements coming in our wind power stocks as well. The only fly in the ointment, mixed emerging markets. If you take a look at it, Russia as well as Brazil, no real moves there, a bit divergent out there. Asia, North Korea fired yet another continental ballistic missile, but the markets shrugged off those worries. As far as Nikkei is concerned, that one's in the green primarily on account of the weakness in the yen and strength in the dollar, but mild red seen across the Asian indices. For our markets, though, the SGX Nifty indicates a start with a gain of 25 points.
Okay. All right, Mangalam, thanks so much for that. So just correcting that trivia that I was pointing out on the Bitcoin. So here's the deal. It's not just Pepsi, but the Bitcoin market capitalization is now above 95% of the S&P 500 index members. So 95% of the companies, their market cap is below the Bitcoin. Well, that's the talking point this morning. On that note, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and get you the CNBC TV-18 top 10 list of stocks to watch out for this Wednesday. If you're not into Bitcoins and you prefer regular equity, then it's time to go through the CNBC TV-18 top 10 stock list for the morning. Cues, as we're pointing out, are flattish across Asia, but the SGX Nifty is positive. So our entire team is here. Good morning, guys. Anuj, let me start with you. What is on your radar? I must talk to you about, of course, Jet Airways. That's a stock that you flagged off. And, of course, we're expecting some news announcements today.
Yeah, I think Jet would be the stock to watch, but I think we'll let Kritika talk about that since she's tracking it. But let's start the day with coffee. Tata Coffee is the stock that surged to 52-week high yesterday, and very strong delivery-based buying in the stock. You know, we've all been talking about Tata Global because that's the more fancied stock, Surabhi, but Tata Coffee has actually outperformed even that stock. The institutional ownership for Tata Coffee is very low. Perhaps that's the reason this move is explained. It's an under-owned stock, and you don't have too much research coverage as well for the stock. So it's owned 57% by Tata Global, by the way. The other stock that I'm watching out for is Astra Microwave. It's a stock which had a massive rally yesterday from 20-day moving average after a big correction, and it closed at 200-day moving average. So follow-up today would be the key for this particular stock.
Okay. Yesterday we spoke about Tata Coffee all afternoon. We missed you at that time. But Tata Coffee's last reported earnings are a drop in revenue of 21%. We alluded to that as well. Nevertheless, at the moment, the flavor is all in the coming earnings season. But yes, Surabhi and Anuj have already flagged off the Jet Airways meeting today with KLM. Kritika, who will be following us for taking us through that meeting, is here with us on the phone line. Kritika, what's expected?
Hi, Latha. So the announcement is around 11-ish. What we are expecting is a significant joint venture between the two. What will happen is that they'll enter into an agreement where they will together go into a complete code sharing between the three players. That is KLM, Air France and Jet Airways. We understand that the code sharing will extend to the sharing of ground handling services as well as loyalty programs, which will become a part of the joint venture. They could look at extending this partnership to Delta Airlines as well. So the announcement is expected today. The big question would be, could there be a possibility of exploration of an equity partnership? Not yet, not today. But the significant co-sharing and joint venture kind of a deal that they're working on right now could lead to an exploration of an equity partnership at a later date.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that, Kritika. Actually, the mood in which the market is, all you need is the announcement of a meeting, and perhaps the tie-ups will be forged in people's
But that's
minds.
what I don't understand, Anuj. If there's nothing happening with equity, it's just a code share alliance, and what's the...
Code sharing is already there, right? With with Delta. Now, there's Delta, Air France, KLM. Of course, we're talking about that. I think the bigger trigger for Jet would come if you're talking about equity partnership. Keep in mind, Etihad already has 24% stake in Jet.
So why would another person enter?
And remember what happened when Etihad had come into picture because of it being the Middle East based company. Could we be looking at a scenario where this 24% equity is up for grab and some other airline takes it? I think that would be the next trigger for Jet Airways. I think that's the market chatter, but of course we'll find out as we move along.
Okay, well, let's go across to Nigel, who has his eye on the Wipro buyback. Good morning, Nigel.
Well, morning, Surabhi. I'll be looking at that because, in fact, the buyback starts today. Remember, we have most of the details are out. The buyback price is at around 320 rupees. And if you had the shares on the record date, that was September 15th, then, in fact, you could participate in this buyback. For retail, well, if you had 699 shares, you would qualify for the retail category. That's for the small shareholders. And then, in fact, if you had 699 shares, 484 shares would be bought back. That's assuming everyone comes into tender. If everyone doesn't come into tender, then the acceptance ratio moves higher. Keep the stock in focus, though we already have most of the details. Also keep in mind, retail investors, holding these shares for close to 3 months now. September 15th till now. So some part of the time value of money as well has already played out. That's going to, reduce your profits.
Okay, Wipro in fact has been among the top nifty gainers this year. Let's not forget that. But Naveen, you're watching out for Swaraj Engines?
So there's a buyback, remember, which was announced a week back. Now we have got the price. So the price is coming around 20% upwards of the last closing price at 2,400 rupees. Also remember, the acceptance ratio comes in around 2.5%. The important point to note over here is both the promoters, that is M&M as well as Kirloskar, will be participating in the buyback. And the most important point being that it's 20% above the current market price. Expect the stock to be in green in today's trade.
Okay. Anisha, Technofab got an order?
Well, yes, that stock will be in focus today because the company backed an order worth around 281 crores. Now, remember the market cap of the company is 250 odd crore. The yearly revenue in FY17 was 400 odd crores, hence a sizable order for the company. Now, this is for domestic water infrastructure space and it is funded by Asian Development Bank. So that as well is not a problem for the company. Now, total order book of the company is around 2,000 odd crores, out of which 45% is what comes from water infrastructure. Remember, of late we have been hearing that water infrastructure can be the next big trigger. So if that's the case, the company stands to gain from that as well. So overall, going good for the company. It should hold up in the green today.
Okay, so Technofab also on our radar. Thanks so much, Anisha, for that. Now let's move to some news that's coming on Maggi noodles all over again, and this is almost 2 years after that ban on the noodles brand Maggi, which left a bitter taste in the mouth of course, a lot of Nestle shareholders. Now, the latest developments in the last couple of hours are these. The ADM of Shahjahanpur in Uttar Pradesh has slapped Nestle India as well as its distributors with a 62 lakh rupee fine for samples that they say have been tested as substandard. On its part, the company is arguing that the application of standards is simply incorrect. The application of standards is simply incorrect. They've applied incorrect standards. Where does all of this go? Let's ask Priya Sheth. She has the details. Priya.
Well, Nestle India's Maggi noodles may have returned to shelves, but of course there are some court orders that have just trickled in. In fact, what we do understand from our sources is that the Shahjahanpur ADM court, which is in UP, has fined Nestle India as well as its distributors a total of about 62 lakh rupees. And just to break this up for you, Nestle India has been fined about 45 lakh rupees, and this includes its factories in Moga as well as in Pantnagar, and the remaining 17 lakhs have been charged as fines to their retailers as well as its distributors. Now, do remember that this case pertains to the 2015 Maggi noodles controversy, where several samples of Maggi noodles had been found substandard by the Lucknow as well as UP food safety officials and been sent to labs for testing. And this case specifically pertains to ash content, which had been found substantially higher than the prescribed limits. Now, what we also do understand is that Nestle India has been given 1 month to file an appeal as far as the Moradabad tribunal is concerned, and this is something that we'll watch out for going ahead. But of course, we did write to Nestle India, and the company has emphasized that Maggi noodles are 100% safe for consumption. Also, they've reiterated that they haven't received any orders passed by the adjudication officer as of now. Also, they say that this case appears to be a case of application of incorrect standards, and they will file an appeal urgently once they receive the order. So clearly, we'll keep a track as to how this pans out for Nestle India going ahead.
Okay, Priya, thanks very much for that. So yes, Nestle definitely on our radar. In fact, sticking to the consumer space, we've got Mangalam back with us. I'm guessing, Mangalam, you'll watch out for Nestle, but also Godrej Consumer, where there's an upgrade?
Yes, I will be watching out for Godrej Consumer, but just a word on Nestle, 45 lakh rupee fine on Nestle. We need to know a lot more details. Nestle has said that they will appeal against it. The big bone of contention, Nestle says this is a 2015 sample, and the others are saying it's a 2016 sample. Definitely watch out for this. But apart from that, Godrej Consumer, that stock spiked in yesterday's trading session, and now we know Macquarie has written on Godrej Consumer. They believe the household insecticides portfolio, which contributes about a quarter of their revenues, they have a lot of new launches lined up in that portfolio over the next 6 months, and with the kind of rise that we've seen in malaria, dengue as well as chikungunya, household insecticides could be the big driver for Godrej Consumer. They have a target of about 1159 rupees, and they maintain their outperform rating on Godrej Consumer. Also watch out for Godrej Industries, which holds about 26% stake in Godrej Consumer.